Do you know about any of the concessions?
No, and I pushed the Republican side last night, by the way, a hearing that began about 10:30 p.m., to find out, in the interest of transparency, not just for me and my Democratic colleagues, but for my Republican colleagues as well, exactly what are these side agreements before we have the vote. That didn't happen. Even as I sit here tonight, we still don't know what those side agreements are. There's a lot of public reporting on what people are whispering, further changes to Medicaid, perhaps. Just pretty extraordinary when you consider what's already in the bill, the changes to Medicaid as well as the Affordable Care Act. Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has said 13.7 million Americans will lose their health care as a result of this bill. The Freedom Caucus extremists look at that number and say, OK, that's a good start. We want more.
Well, if you look at the math of the bill as it currently lands, it doesn't do anything to cut the deficit. This is from the Wall Street Journal. The current proposal would increase projected budget deficits by nearly $3 trillion through 2034, locking in tax cuts and spending increases that outweigh reductions in spending on Medicaid and nutrition assistance. So if that is their North Star, that is their holy grail, at the same time that you have Moody's knocking us down a notch, is this really the time for them to be talking about tax cuts for billionaires?
No, of course not. First, I mean, I think it's not just bad economics, but immoral to kick 13.5 million Americans off their health care in order to pay for tax cuts for billionaires, number one. But number two, the Moody's downgrade on Friday, combined with what we're seeing in the bond market, I think is finally a reaction to saying, hey, wait a minute. Our nation's debt is on a scary trajectory, and we really need to do something about this. But the last thing we need to do is make our debt situation, which is already bad, far worse.
How do you think this plays in the Senate?
I think if we get to a point where the big bill for billionaires passes this week, the Senate Republicans look at it, have a nice chuckle, pat the head of the House Republicans, say, that was very cute. Thanks, guys. And then they go on and draw up their own bill completely independent of this.
And what do you think that looks like?
So, yeah, but what is the process at that point?
Yeah, so that would obviously be a Senate consideration. But one interesting thing, like take SALT, for example, which is very important to those who are in high tax states that tend to invest in public education
New York,
and
New
other
Jersey,
services.
California.
Yeah, which, interestingly, there are a number of House Republicans, actually the kind of swing seats that we'll be targeting that will determine the House majority next November. It turns out over on the Senate side, there are no Senate Republicans who represent those states. So SALT is an example, just one, but I think the other is on Medicaid. Senate Republicans seem to have a very different frame of mind and outlook than their House Republican brethren.
You know, so when you talk about the big issues on this big, beautiful bill, there are three sticky issues. Medicaid cuts.
Big billionaire bill.
Big billionaire bill. Yeah, the B's. B, triple B, okay?
Bring it Brendan Boyle. I like alliteration of the B's.
It works. I mean, they're saying Medicaid cuts and limits are one of the issues. Clean energy cuts. The legislation would repeal major pieces of the Inflation Reduction Act, but conservatives actually want to be more aggressive on rolling back the money to reduce the red ink under the bill. I'm unsure about what that is. And then the SALT deduction that you just talked about. On the clean energy cuts and the Medicaid cuts and limits, on Medicaid, they keep talking about that if you are able-bodied, you should be working, not understanding that sometimes the Medicaid is paying for a loved one to be a caregiver for a person who needs it. And so we can get into that. And then on these clean energy cuts, some of the money has resulted in businesses building new plants or whatnot.
Often in Republican districts.
In upstate New York, there's one, Micron is building a plant in Kentucky. So how do we square this? I don't understand.
Well, interestingly, that is a reason why apparently some House Republicans are saying they oppose the cuts that would happen to these IRA credits. But I just want to take a step back, Simone, to kind of put this in perspective. I always believed and would say until I was purple in the face last fall when I was campaigning in my home state of Pennsylvania, that Trump 2.0 would be far worse than Trump 1.0. We've seen that in terms of no legal guardrails. We've seen that in terms of no checks in so many ways. Here's another example. 8 years ago, his so-called Tax Cut and Jobs Act, or the tax scam, it was a bad piece of legislation that added to our national debt. However, to be fair, it didn't do any of these sorts of things. It didn't change Medicaid. It didn't touch Medicare. This time around, he is going for broke. And these sorts of really extreme, really destructive things. I mean, this would be the greatest loss of health care in American history, all to underwrite the greatest round of tax cuts, almost all of which go for billionaires. That is much more extreme than any previous round of Republican tax cuts, whether it's George W. Bush in 01 or 03 or even Donald Trump back 8 years ago. We're getting some breaking news, and we want to ask you about it, but apparently Alina Habba, who is, what's her job now?
She's the acting.
She's had a couple.
New Jersey, yeah.
She is the interim U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey.
She's acting all right.
She's acting. Well, she has apparently now dismissed charges against Mayor Ras Baraka of Newark, so no longer being charged. He went to court last Thursday, but it is being reported that she has apparently filed charges against New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. And I'm wondering your reaction to this news as we're trying to find more information. I don't believe the indictment has been unsealed yet, but our team, NBC News, is efforting to find out. But just your reaction to this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm just learning the news as we all are now. It is chilling. The reason why they're doing this is to shut me and my Democratic colleagues up. They're doing it to make us afraid. It's not going to work. If anything, it will only strengthen our resolve. But make no mistake about it, this is not normal. It is not the sort of thing that happens in a healthy democracy. It is truly chilling. And I would urge all of my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans, even those Republicans who say one thing in private about Trump, but then never want to say it in public, this should be a time when every member of Congress speaks out.
So just to offer a little bit of context here for anyone who might have not been totally dialed into this story, 3 members of Congress, one of them, full disclosure, my brother, show up at a detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, given their statutory authority to, show up to conduct oversight at these facilities. The mayor shows up. They accuse the mayor of trespassing. The members of Congress are holding on to the mayor. That is fundamentally what it's about. She went to do her job, and they are now saying that she ended up in some scuffle. I will allow them to litigate them. I just want to be clear on what the chilling effect is, which is they don't want you to be able to do your job.
Correct.
Right?
Because they want you, they want me and my colleagues to be thinking, oh boy, if I take this action, if I do my job and I push back against this administration, for example, as ranking member of the Budget Committee, I am leading the fight against Trump's big, beautiful bill for billionaires. He wants it so that I'm thinking in the back of my mind, oh, geez, maybe I should pull my punches because suddenly a U.S. attorney in Philadelphia might charge me with X, Y, and Z. It's not going to work.
Well, that's what bullies do all the time, though. They want you to pull the punch. They want you to be afraid just enough.
And dictators.
And dictators. And so what... I mean, you said something about the Republicans. I don't. Why bother? Why is that even part of the conversation at this point? Because they're not going to. They're not. They're always going to call. They're going to pull your side, Brent. Oh man, I agree with you. So I can't believe Trump is such a SOB. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Right.
Right.
And then they'll go out in front of a bank of microphones and they're going to spew the crap. So that's the cycle we're in. The question is What do you see the Democrats doing at this point within this particular cycle to level up the case against this authoritarian-ish behavior, this feckless Republican leadership that's lockstep with that authoritarian behavior that has resulted in the collapse of our economy, the collapse of our personal economies, with more coming? What's the narrative that the case you're making so that you're doing it before you get into an election cycle and people dismiss it, go, well, that's just the politics, it's election, of course, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, one of the best things we can do in order to impact policy and stop some of this bad stuff from happening, to be candid, is winning back the House of Representatives in a year and a half. This right now is the big fight in front of us. This will be the big and perhaps only big domestic piece of policy going through Congress over the next year and a half. So us either winning this fight, like we were able to do on the ACA 8 years ago, and stop these bad things from happening, like people losing their health care, or even if we're unsuccessful in that, making sure we raise awareness and making sure the American people understand that their costs are going up because of this administration. Their health care is at risk because of this administration. And most of the tax cuts they're not going to get. So I think that our path back, similar to 8 years ago, is standing up to this Republican extreme agenda, which is mostly tilted for the top 1% of Americans.
I